Recently, the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case finished up, and most low-functioning people on the planet seem to regard the whole deal as boys versus girls Super Bowl. It was all very damaging for victims of domestic abuse, and I hated it. But whatever your take on the whole boys versus girls Super Bowl, I know we can all agree that one person who does definitely not get to talk about lying women and abuse ever is Avi Yemeni, who is a convicted spousal abuser. But in the classic style of all dog cunts, Yemeni doesn't feel any shame about that. He doesn't have any feelings. So when the Depp and Heard verdict came out, he got all wet and he said on Twitter, "Don't believe all women." So I said in reply, "But well might we believe your ex-partner, to whose accusation of domestic violence you yourself pled guilty a few years ago. Considering that, it's a little odd that you'd step into this arena. Well, it would be odd if I didn't know you to be the shameless little ghoul you are." And that was the final straw for Avi Yemeni, who finally, after all these years, blocked me on Twitter. Now, this video is not about Avi Yemeni's domestic abuse convictions. I only put this at the top of the video because it actually does the same thing as hanging garlic over your door does with vampires. Because this anecdote is in this video, the cunt won't share it or engage with it. He doesn't want his followers to be aware that he's a convicted spousal abuser, so he just blanks anything that exists with a mention of it. So now you know I am not trying to provoke a response from Yemeni with this video. Indeed, this video isn't for him, it's for you. If it was for him, I wouldn't put his domestic violence stuff in. Because that means he's excluded from this conversation, it is just you and me. Okay. Today I have an article out in Independent Australia about Yemeni and PR Guy after the federal court gave Twitter 14 days to disclose the details of the slavishly pro-Labor Twitter user to Avi Yemeni. I'm making this as a kind of complimentary video because I'm trying to include you YouTube watching people in this discussion because let's face it, you can't read. Just joking. If you'd like to try reading something for once, the link is in the description. Here's some weird sus fundraisers that Avi Yemeni has done over time. Just some of many. He once stood in a puddle and asked for money that should have gone to desperate flood victims. I did a video on that. He once asked for money for a security staffer already on his payroll. I did a video on that guy. His biggest anti-lockdown fundraiser was the Fight the Fines campaign, purporting to offer legal assistance to people who received a fine for breaching pandemic restrictions. We know it raised at least $100,000, probably a lot more. We don't know how many legal actions, though, were actually launched by rebel lawyers as a result. I have covered that too. Perhaps most flagrantly to my mind, he once asked for legal defence donations while in the back of a Victoria Police divvy van being escorted away from the 2021 Invasion Day rally, but he knew he hadn't been charged with anything. In fact, he was just being dropped off down the road with a warning. Then we found out via a helpful Twitter user that Rebel had actually prepared, as per the timestamps we could prove it, that fundraising beg for his legal defence before he'd even left home for the rally. And he knew he was not charged, but they pulled the trigger anyway and asked for money to free him, even though he was perfectly free and he knew it. I did a video on that too. Perhaps you're sensing a theme here. The truth is, I don't trade in epic owns of Avi Yemeni. How undignified. I have been trying to tell you all about the most flagrantly suspicious and dodgy shit Yemeni does, so you, God forbid, can explore doing something about it. We'll return to that later on. The PR Guy thing is supposed to be in preparation for potential defamation proceedings. Australia, for context, is seen as a defamation paradise. Or, to put it another way,
speaking of defamation, Australia is the best country.
That's YouTuber Simeon Boykov, aka the Aussie Cossack, saying that. This clip is from when Yemeni was filming Boykov for a Rebel video in Sydney back last November. They didn't seem particularly aware that they were actually being live streamed at the time by a guy called Chris de Bruyn. So in it, Boykov accuses Yemeni of getting more than friendly Geordies, more money of course. Yemeni says, take it back, and then he says, that's defamation, jokingly.
No, I get more than friendly Geordies. No, take it back.
I retract that comment. According to Yemeni, he gets more than friendly.
That's defamation.
If you're not aware of what they're talking about here, they're talking about Friendly Geordie's legal defence fundraiser, which was very popular and netted over $1 million. Jordan Shanks settled out of court with the person who was trying to sue him, New South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro at the time. He paid only $100,000 of that to Barilaro out in court costs, and then he kept the rest. That's what Yemeni and Boykov are singing the praises of here.
Geordies is celebrating a win. It cost him $100,000, but he raised over $1 million. So,
Not a bad deal.
Not a bad deal.
1.2 million change.
Now, I want you to imagine if Friendly Geordie's team called for urgent crowdfunding, not once, but every week, instead of just when necessary to defend himself. And they call for it from a huge international audience, not just a huge Australian one, and they did so for a wide variety of legal actions that, in fact, his team were invariably threatening to launch themselves. Be open slow, though, wouldn't it? Well, that is basically Yemeni and Rebel News' revenue-raising model.
According to Yemeni, he gets more than friendly.
that's defamation.
This model was perfected overseas by Rebel News founder Ezra Levant. Ezra is very, very, very litigious. He learned all these tricks himself back when he was a lawyer. He was a very certain kind of lawyer. Levant was so sus that between joining the bar in 2004 and leaving in 2016, which he only did just ahead of being disbarred, it seemed, Levant received 26 formal complaints. He had an average hearing rate of 1 complaint every 5 months. Really impressive. He's been described by a Supreme Court judge in Canada as having a reckless disregard for the truth. Independent media outlet Canadaland said of him, I am not aware of a single Canadian who has filed more lawsuits against journalists, news organisations and critics than Ezra Levant. He was suing Canadaland, of course. He sues anything that moves, actually, and he asks for fundraising assistance while doing it. But in 2015, Canada introduced something called anti-SLAPP legislation. SLAPP stands for Strategic Lawsuits Against Public Participation. Anti-SLAPP laws are meant to stop big dogs like corporations or political parties or what have you from silencing public critique with lawsuits. And that actually perfectly fits the bill for what Rebel does, because anyone who says anything remotely disparaging about Rebel, a hyper-partisan far-right propaganda mob, gets sued. So far, that legislation has stopped at least 2 Rebel News lawsuits that I know of from a cursory look online, maybe more. I'm telling you Ezra's background so you can understand that he is porting all of his tricks over to Australia via Avi Yemeni. That is the game being played here. That is why Rebel are only going to get more litigious in future. Avi Yemeni is not trying to unmask PR Guy 17 so he can sue for defamation. He probably won't launch defamation action after the discovery process is done. The unmasking is enough. He's only doing that because exposing another popular hyper-partisan figure online gives him lots of press. That helps him raise money.
According to Yemeni, he gets more than friendly.
That's defamation.
One positive development in Australia as of July 2021 is that there is a new serious harm threshold requirement for defamation in most Australian states. Now a plaintiff has to demonstrate that someone has caused or is likely to cause serious harm to them. That's another reason I think that Avi will avoid defamation action now. It may require that Rebel demonstrate serious harm in terms of a decline in their finances, and I doubt that Rebel News Australia are ever going to want to show an Australian court a decline or anything in terms of their finances, because they're not going to want to show how much they receive in donations. And I also don't think they'll be able to demonstrate a drop in their finances, because the reality is quite the opposite. This kind of shit increases their donations. That's the point. But Avi Yemeni and Rebel could continue to skirt around defamation like they're doing here, or even, as we possibly saw with the Fight the Fines, just say they're gonna do legal stuff. I mean, who even knows if they need to? That's why I do the videos and stuff. That's why I highlight the particularly sus stuff that he does. I do it so that you can ask authorities like the ACCC, for example, what they're doing about looking into Avi's fundraising begs that, to my mind, seem pretty much like misleading and deceptive conduct, which is a crime. I do it so you can make inquiries with other relevant authorities to stop this bullshit. I do it so you can go forth and lag. That's right, lag. Go and lag on the cunt. Lag. Dob on him. Lag. Someone asked me the other day that, if I spend all this time tactically pointing out these sus things just to get the public to lag to the ACCC and the like the king of the laggers that I am, why don't I just make the complaints myself? And my response to that is, I'm fucking busy, cunt. Don't you think you could get off your fucking ass instead of asking me to do more epic owns and help in a collectivist fashion too, if you hate him so much? I don't exist, newsflash, to do epic owns of Avi Yemeni so you can sit on your fucking hands and have a good chuckle. And by the way, cunt, if you ask me to do an epic own of Avi Yemeni in the past 2 weeks and you aren't on my Patreon, you can get fucked, mate, because I am busy. Go and lag on him right now. Lag to the correct authorities. Get out of my sight. Oh, that's not very anarchist of you, Tom. You say you're anti-state. No, that's not very anarchist of you. I don't care. I don't fucking care, mate. This isn't me modelling ideal anarchism or politics, mate. Go read Kropotkin if that's what you want, cunt. This is me being a scheming cunt who has beyond lost his patience with these absolute sponges, conducting elaborate fundraising exercises using our legal system as theatre while plugging far-right, racist, transphobic, homophobic politics. They are my political opponents, yeah, sure, but what fucking galls me is that they get to raise the money to be bigots using our legal system as a fucking theatre stage. I am only one guy. My job is to tell you what these scammy bullshit artists do. I do that job, if I do say so myself, pretty damned well. I am the king of the laggers, and you are a lagger. It's your job to go and fucking lag on the cunt. Hashtag Team Lagger. Go ask the ACCC what's happening with investigating the variety of fucking sus donation begs. Go ask the police why they don't chase this dog for misleading and deceptive conduct instead of just, escorting him away from rallies periodically and giving him 100 new excuses to ask for more money. Maybe there's other things you can do as well. Maybe there's other authorities I don't know about that you can lag to. Maybe I don't know. That's not my job. That's your job. In this Cossack and Yemeni live stream, after Cossack spends a little while singing about how great defamation laws are in Australia, he lists the media outlets that he's already sued.
Although I can't disclose the results of the cases, instructions on my legal team are saying very pleasing results, very happy with what happened. That's actually the origin of it.
So let me ask you, because you're a construction company or something, right? This is fun.
This is fun. Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? It's so much fun. These cunts are having great fun. They're having a grand old time using legal theatre and social media stunts to make heaps of money. And Australia just lets them do it. Is everyone here a fucking idiot? Go and lag them into oblivion. Lag. Please, lag now. Lag forever. This isn't my politics speaking. I'm just sick of the cunts. Patreon.com/TomTanica if you like me chucking sooks like this. Pay for me to chuck more of them in future. And if you wanted me to own the cunt, if you ask me to do that, get on that Patreon right now. I swear to fucking God.
According to our Gemini, he gets more than friendly.
That's defamation.